All right, we have unbelievable population growth. The Bank of Canada sends out some interesting stats and what is happening with the CPI. And it's episode 161 of the Wise Old Owl Show. So thank you all for tuning in. This should be a very interesting episode because we're going to talk a little bit about what the Bank of Canada has pointed out in a document that they've issued called the impact of higher interest rates on mortgage payments. They put out this report and it's outlined some very, very interesting information, and one of which is that as of the end of November 2023, 45% of mortgages or mortgage holders have seen an increase in payments. And by the end of 2026, all remaining will see an increase to their mortgages at a renewal period. So what does all this mean? Well, 80% will see an increase by the end of 2025. And what's really, really interesting in this report that I found extremely concerning is that among the variable rate mortgage clients that have a fixed payment, the median payment expected to increase by 54%. So if you have a Royal Bank, TD, Bank of Montreal, or CIBC mortgage that was in a variable fixed payment, the median payment increase is going to be about 54%. I think people are going to need to prepare for that. People are going to have to come to the understanding that things are going to have to change in the budget, because that is going to put a significant constraint on disposable income, consumption, and your spending is going to be impacted when you see an increase to your mortgage payment by that much. So that was a recent report by the Bank of Canada, very concerning, and I think that is one of the reasons why banks are a little bit concerned about the upcoming renewal numbers. We're going to see close to 500,000 folks renewing their mortgage in the next 6 months, and we're going to start seeing the impact in the first and second quarter of those folks and how that could slow the economy as far as consumption is concerned. So we'll keep an eye on that and we'll see how that all plays out. But the big news this week, outside of the CPI not moving and not meeting economists' forecasts, is the population growth. And it was reported that we had 1.250,000 in population growth this year, in the last 12 months. And to put things into perspective, okay, and this is the way I looked at it, that number, what does that number represent? That is the equivalent of the population of Ottawa and Barrie. Ottawa has about 1,068,000 folks in it as of the last StatsCan census, and Barrie's got about 154,000. So in 1 year, we've brought in as many people, total population growth, that is the equivalent of the city of Ottawa and Barrie. What is more alarming is that in the last 90 days, we saw almost 431,000 people be added to our population. Okay? That is like the city of London, Ontario, in the last 90 days. Folks, this is very, very concerning. It's extremely concerning. And to put things in the better perspective about the last 90 days, that will be the equivalent of Barrie, the city of Barrie, the city of Guelph, and the city of Kingston being added to the population in the last 90 days. That's July 1st to October 1st. Folks, this is not good for infrastructure, it's not good for healthcare, it's not good for social services, it's not good for the education system. These type of numbers will break things. And it is incumbent on us to reach out to our MPs, our politicians, and say enough is enough. Okay? We need to give immigrants and those coming to this country a fair shake of making a great life in Canada, and putting them up against the wall in a situation where they're unable to support themselves, they're unable to find shelter, is just unfair. That's not the right way and the Canadian way of doing things. So we need things to stop. And it all starts at the federal level. Like, at the end of the day, it's the feds that are the gatekeepers. And we have a minister of housing that was the former minister of immigration that knew these things were happening, okay? These things just don't happen overnight. And it seems like we just are not on top of this file, okay? In the last 10 years, international students have grown from about 300,000 in 2013 to 900,000 in 2023. We've tripled in the last 10 years. Education is now for profit and greed. It's been commoditized, folks. Okay, this is all shifted the mindset within these post-secondary education. It's no longer education. It's about enrollment over learning. And there's a lot of shit that's going on that's not good. And to give you some insight on it, okay, a lot of these students are being sold a bill of goods that has a lot of very bad actors in it, okay? And for those that have been involved in the university application process and the post-secondary application process, there is a Ontario College of Application system. It's based out of Guelph. It's called OCAS, okay? And they have recently introduced a system called OCAS Verify. And it is a tool designed for Canadian border agency agents to use to verify and confirm admissions of immigrants coming to Canada to study. And the reason they had to do this is because there were so many fraudulent admission letters to universities showing up at immigration when these folks came to Canada supposedly to study. Now, it's a great tool that the Ontario College Application system put together, but is it fucking necessary? Like, why not do the homework first? Why not issue visas and student visas to properly vetted individuals? This is starting to get fucking really ridiculous, okay? And I think Canada Border Agency agents got to get away from asking whether or not we're bringing in meats and cheeses into this country and find out who the fuck should be here and shouldn't be here. Because this is putting a significant strain on our system, okay? These folks are putting pressure on all our services. The country cannot sustain this level of immigration. Now, granted, they finally have made some comments on the file. They're asking these foreign students to increase the amount of cash that they bring into the country. Before it was 10,000. I think now it's just over 20,000. They're going to try to put a cap on this. But why are we being reactive? Why are we not being proactive on this file? Okay, like at the end of the day, manpower is managed by the top of the house, the federal government. Everything that they do, letting more and more people come into this country, impacts the provinces, impacts the municipalities, and like, look at the refugees that are coming in just unbelievable numbers. Okay, I think it's almost double or triple. We have hotels that are housing refugees because there's no place to put them. We have school buses picking up kids at hotels in Niagara Falls, in places around this country, because refugees are living full-time in the hotels. Now, granted, we have a huge tour being made by these federal politicians claiming that this accelerator fund is going to help build affordable housing. Well, you know what? It's going to take a bunch of fucking years before that happens, and it's not going to happen anytime soon. So we need to start asking our MPs to smarten up, to be accountable. These folks are not making it easy for everybody. We have record levels of people at the food banks. We have people that can't afford things. I saw a study by some grocery food website saying that Canadians are planning on spending less money on snacks and other things, meat and whatever. Well, of course they are. They don't have any fucking money. Of course they're going to spend less money on these snacks and, processed meals or whatever. Like, it only makes sense. When you got less money, you can't buy this stuff. You're going to definitely buy less. Like this, you don't have to be a brain surgeon to figure this out. So it's starting to be really an issue where every client and everybody that you talk to is either mad, sad, or angry. And let's hope that 2024 brings a little bit more positivity, because we need more accountability at all levels of government. Everybody needs to do a better job of getting things done with common sense, because it's fucking crazy, folks. It's absolutely a shit show. But anyways, we are seeing some movement on the interest rates. So on the fixed rate front, we're happy to note that some of these rates are starting to come down a little bit. We're starting to see the 5-year fixed rates on the insured side sitting at around low fives, some touching close to 4s, but we're talking low 5s. On the conventional side, we're still in that 575, 589 range, but there's some movement there, and we're getting some emails from lenders saying that we should see some rates come down next week, which is good news heading into the new year. The variable rates on the other end are not looking to move anytime soon. We saw inflation not move much. As a matter of fact, it was a little bit higher than economists had expected. And I caution everybody not to be worried when the December print comes out, because it's not going to be favorable. Okay, these CPI stats are compared on a year-over-year basis, and last December we had a very low number, so it's going to be very difficult to improve upon that. So you might see a little increase with the inflation rate next month when it's reporting for December, and hopefully after that we could see some movement leveling off in that 2% target rate that the Bank of Canada governor and their merry men that work there want to see, because they want to see that inflation number move towards that 2% level. So hopefully we'll get there. But good news is we are seeing some movement. The bad part of that equation is there's still not a lot of people looking to buy. Okay, there's still some concern about unemployment. I do believe that that's going to spark a lot of fear in folks making any large purchases. When you're not comfortable about employment, you're not buying big ticket items. So you're not seeing folks go out and buy cars and houses. So I think we're still going to be stuck on a lack of sales situation when it comes to real estate. So if you are buying, understand that you're going to be buying in a very good environment where you're going to have choice, you could be patient, and you could be in control of the purchase transaction negotiation, because I don't think there's going to be a lot of folks buying out there. I know realtors are hoping that there's going to be a spur of activity. I don't think it's going to happen for a while. I really think we got to respect the lag. I think we're going to be higher for longer for quite some time, and the Bank of Canada is going to be very, very cautious about dropping rates anytime soon. So I think we could definitely see it be a while before we see the Bank of Canada adjust on the prime side. But on the other end, we are seeing the fixed rates move down a little bit, which is a good sign, but still that stress test is still preventing folks from qualifying, and the affordability issue still is a big one out there. The 5-year bond is sitting at 322 this afternoon, 321, 322, a little bit less than the 326 level that it was at last week. But when you compare it to a month ago, it was sitting at 3.8. So we've come down quite a bit, and that's a good sign. Okay, we are seeing these fixed rate numbers come down, and that bodes well for fixed rate mortgage rates. So that's all good. Use Porsche Tracker. We've seen a drop this week from last week. Last week we sat at 1,222. This week we're sitting at 1,206. It is getting cold out there. We saw below zero temperatures a couple times, so maybe those Porsches aren't out and about and people aren't necessarily looking to buy them. Or a few folks got some early Christmas gifts by maybe getting some used Porsches delivered to them this Christmas. So the reality is it's still over that 1,200 number. And for those that aren't aware, I do track how many used Porsches are for sale on Auto Trader website. I look at all used Porsches available within a 100-kilometer radius of where I sit, and I simply just pull the data point off of the website and have a little bit of fun with it. Try to get a gauge as to what's happening with the toys and all that. So hopefully we'll continue to watch that and see how that transpires as we move into the new year, if people start needing some cash and have to get rid of the toys. So we'll keep an eye on that. On that note, I want to thank everybody. Wish you all a wonderful holiday season. Merry Christmas to those out there that celebrate it. And we'll see you next week on episode 162 of the Wise Old Owl Show. Take care.